everybody and welcome to the channel. I am Richard. Today I'm going to bring you with me to a magical world where little kids are sitting at home and waiting for a letter from the mailman. I'm going to show you flying sticks, magic wands and talking hats. That's right, I'm going to show you Harry Potter Hogwarts Battles from the OP games. This is a 1 to 4 player game. It says 2 to 4 players on the box, but there is actually a solo mode in this one as well. And it's from 11 years and above. Today I'm going to show you the setup of this game. I'm going to go through the rules of the game, so when you have watched this video, you will be able to take on the evil enemies of the Harry Potter world. So let's just take a look at it. If this is your first game, this is what the setup will look like. In the middle of the table we put the big board. Next to the table we put the village control tokens, the damage tokens and the influence tokens. We then open game box number 1. In this game there's 7 of these boxes, but if this is your first game you should start with number 1. In this box you will find all of the cards that you need to set up and play this game. Up here we have the location cards and there's 2 of them in this box. You should start with the one that says 1 of 2 and then place the second one beneath and put them on the location spot on the board. We then have the villain cards. These should be shuffled and then take the top card and place it down here in the first villain spot. There's 3 of these spots, but in the first game we only use the first spot. Up here we have the dark art cards. These should also be shuffled and put face down. These here are the Hogwarts cards, and these should also be shuffled real good. And then we should take the deck and put it face down in the spot at the top. Then we take 6 cards and put them face up like this, creating a market. Each player then takes a player board, a health token that they place on number 10. They take a turn order card and they choose a hero. They place these 2 cards above the player board. They then take the 10 starting cards corresponding to the hero that they have chosen. They draw 5 starting cards to their hand and place the rest in the draw pile. In this game, you portray as one of the heroes in the Harry Potter universe. We are located in Hogwarts and we need to take on those damn enemies coming at us trying to ruin our day. Like I said, you start your game with game box number 1 and then as your game progresses you will move through the different boxes. Each of these boxes represent 1 year at Hogwarts, meaning that each of these boxes will contain different enemies for you to take on. As the game moves on and you will advance in the different years, the game will get harder and harder, but there will also be added some rules to the games that you do not have at the start. So if you are a beginner, it's recommended to start with number 1. But if you are an advanced card player and after reading rules you feel like you got a hang of it, you could actually start at box number 3, skipping the 2 first years. But then again, what's the fun of that? You want to beat all of these enemies, don't you? So we have done the setup and we are ready to take on the evil forces. We have our starting deck and we have our heroes on the board. Now, this game is played out during 4 different steps. The first step is to draw a dark art event card. But to know how many cards we need to draw, we need to look at the location card first. Because on that card it says how many cards we need to reveal. This card here says that we should reveal 1 dark art card, giving us not that hard time to start with. So we simply reveal the card by flipping it over, putting it face up next to the draw pile. Depending on which card we just revealed, different things will of course happen. This is kind of like an event in the game and it needs to be resolved immediately. This one here says that the active hero, meaning the hero taking the turn right now, loses 2 health. We simply withdraw 2 health on the health track, moving down the little heart token here 2 steps. And these cards can of course say a bunch of different things. Some of them will tell you to take the villain control token and put it on the location card. Now, what does that mean? That means that you are starting to lose control of the location itself. And once this control meter down here is completely filled with villain control tokens, we have lost control of that location. And we need to discard the top card and move on to the next location. Now we have not lost the game yet, but if we lose the control over this location as well, well then we have lost and we need to try again. So that was step number 1 of this game. We looked at the location cards to see how many dark art event cards we needed to reveal and resolve. Now we move into step number 2, and it's time for us to take a look at the villain cards to see what kind of effects they have. So let's take a look at the villain card. Here we have good old Malfoy looking happy as ever. And here we have an effect that may or may not activate during this turn. This one here, for example, says that each time a villain control token is placed on the location, the active hero loses 2 health. Now we did not place a villain control token on the location at this turn, so this won't activate. So if the villains manage to get all of their tokens on the location cards, that location is gone right away, right? No, that is not true. Because the heroes actually have to the end of their round to hopefully remove some of these tokens. Because some of the cards that your hero has actually allows you to remove tokens from the location card, giving your heroes just a little bit more time to hopefully beat the villain before they manage to take control of the location at the end of the round. That was step number 2, and we move into step number 3. And this is where we start to use our hero and actually start to play our cards that we now have on our hands. During your turn, you can play these cards to gain resources. These resources will later be used to buy cards or attack the enemies. But let's take a look at the cards first. Here we have some of Hermione's cards. At the bottom you can see which hero the cards belongs to. Up in the top right corner you can see what game box the cards belongs to. All of these are game number 1. Here you can see a cool little picture of what this card represents, and below the picture you can see what it actually is. In this case we have a spell, item and an ally. Below this we have the effects of the cards, and depending on which type of card you play, different things are going to happen. Here we can see that this cool little cat here will give you 1 damage token and 2 health. On this one here we can see that you gain 1 influence and you get to put the new card you acquire in the top of your deck instead of directly into your discard pile, where all new cards from the market would go. And here you can gain 1 influence. During your turn you can play any number of cards, for example throwing away these 2 here into the discard pile to gain 2 influences. And then play, for example, an ally here and 2 other cards to get some damage tokens as well. Now it's important for you to understand that you cannot save resources from your turn to the next turn. So you pretty much need to get rid of them right away. But if it's another player's turn and some kind of effects gives you resources during their turn, you can save them until it is your turn again. So use your resources right away, otherwise they will pretty much just disappear at the end of your turn. These damage tokens here, they are assigned to the villain. And you put them beneath the villain's card. On the villain's card you can see the amount of hit points they have that you need to overcome to be able to defeat that villain. So now Hermione here has actually done 2 damage on good old Malfoy. And the coins that you have just received can of course be used to acquire new cards from the market. Now I have 2 influence coins here, meaning that I can buy a card with the value of 2 on it. This one up here, for example. I simply take the card that I have just bought, and if I do not have a special effect that will let me do otherwise, this card gets to go into the discard pile. During the game you can of course also get damage, either through an event or through a villain. If this happens and you go all the way down to stun on your health track here, you will need to lose all of the tokens that you have in your token bank. You also need to get rid of some cards on your hand. Half the amount of cards that you have on your hand rounded down.
meaning that if you have 5 cards on your hand, you need to discard 2. And this can happen on another hero's turn as well. For example, if the player over here draws an event card that makes you lose health down to your stun, well, the same thing happens. And at the end of that player's turn, your health will go back up to 10. But if this happens during your turn, you actually get to play your turn as well. You don't have any tokens left, and you have less cards on your hand, but you still might be able to do something to affect the game. And at the end of your turn, you will be able to get the full amount of health back again. So you have done your turn. You have played the cards that you can. Hopefully you have managed to get some resources. Maybe you have even been able to buy some cards from the market using the influence tokens or deal out some damage to these evil villains. Once we have done our turn and we have played our cards, we need to do some end of turn things. First, we need to check the location to see if the villains have been able to take over this location. If they have, we simply discard the top card and then we expose the bottom card, moving into the next location and trying to stop them there instead. We also need to look at the villains here to see if we have managed to damage them enough to actually remove them from the board. In this case we haven't, but if we had, we would take this card and discard it, revealing the next villain beneath instead, to see what we will now face. Of course, removing the old damage tokens because no villain starts with damage, right? We also need to look at the market because if we bought any cards, we need to refill the market with new cards from the top of the deck. We also need to look at our board to see if we have saved any tokens, because if we have, we now need to discard them. Remember, you can't keep any resources. Plus, if you have any cards left on your hand, you now need to discard them as well, because you can't save cards either. The last thing you do is to draw 5 new cards from your pile up to your hand. And if your pile is empty, you simply shuffle the discard pile and get a new one. Once this player is done and they have taken their turn and they have done all the cleanup and everything, the turn moves on to the player on their left. And now they do the exact same thing. They look at the location card to see how many dark art event cards they need to reveal. They resolve the effects and then they move on to the villain here to see if or what will happen, and then they play their cards. And this is the way the game goes on until you have hopefully defeated all the villains, or the villains have taken over all of the locations. If the villains take over the locations, well, I'm sorry, but you are just not ready to move on to the next game box. You will need to reset the game, and you will need to practice some magical skills. I don't think that this game will disappoint any Harry Potter fans. I mean, you have the artwork, you have all the lore, you have the characters, you have the reference to everything that goes on in these books and films, and it's just a joy to play through. And it really feels like you are at Hogwarts trying to battle these damn villains here coming in your way, trying to just make your life miserable. The game is quite easy to learn, it's quite fast to set up, and the gameplay goes quite smooth and easy, and there's really no questions on what you can or cannot do. I mean, it all says straight on the cards, so there's really no big pause in the middle of the game where you have to look up rules or anything like that. You can just put this up on a table and you will start playing in no time. And it's really for all ages. I mean, as long as they can read and they understand the text themselves, there's even symbols here showing them, and it's a co-op game. So really kids below 11 years as well could also be a part of this cool universe and start battling. In the market, you will find a bunch of spells and allies and items that you will recognize from the Harry Potter stories. And of course, as the game moves on from game to game, you will get harder and harder spells, but also more and more advanced items and allies. This game is quite clean and quite simple made. I mean, the board, there's not really that much going on it. It's got a clean and nice look to it, and I quite like it because you get a clear overview of all the cards. Also, the components themselves, there's not that many components or tokens for you to make a fiddly game of. It's pretty straightforward, and you can see the game in an easy, clear, clean view. The player areas themselves also have a neat and easy, clean look to them, really never confusing the players. You have the turn order cards, you have the character cards, a draw pile, a discard pile, a health track, and then you have the resource banks below. really giving your players a easy time to manage their player areas. The rulebook of this game is so well written. Again, it's so simple, it's so clean, there's an easy text and there's pictures just showing everything they mean, and they really give you a great overview of the game. And the game itself is actually made in a way where you just set it up on the table and you start playing right away, just having the rules next to you. And once the first player is done, everybody around the table knows exactly what to do. I should probably have told you that at the start of the video, right? But then you wouldn't have watched the video, would you?
There you have it, people. That was Harry Potter Hogwarts Battles for you. A fun, easy, fast game taking you through the 7 years of Hogwarts where Harry Potter and his friends fights the evil. This game is so much fun. It's just dragging you straight into it and it won't really let you go. And when I put this up, I said, I'm gonna play one game and let's see what happens. I ended up playing 5 games at the same night. I just wanted to keep on going. It's so much fun. And also, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you're gonna love this. There's so many references to all the little pets that they have in the movies, to all of the Quidditch games and spells, allies, monsters, everything. This game is a cool Harry Potter game. Like I said, it's easy to learn, it's easy to put up, it's easy to take down. You can put in a good couple of hours here. And like I told you as well, there is a solo mode here. If you go in on the OP's Games website, you can find the solo mode games as well. Or you could just control several heroes at one time. I did that at one point. I played with 2 heroes at the same time and I didn't have any problems with that at all. This is a cool game. There will be links down there in the description if you want to check it out. If you like this video, people, you know what to do. Give me a comment, give me a like, give me some kind of feedback here. I would love to interact with you. I love to talk with you. And if you like the channel, please support it by subscribing to the channel. It gives me a smile on my lips every time I get a new subscriber. And until next time, people, please keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace.